Yes, here we are on Tuesday night. Ooh, ooh, it's 7 o'clock. Ooh, ooh, and this is the good fight. Ooh, ooh. Thank you so much for joining us for the good fight on this night. If you are new here, welcome in. Welcome in. I'm so glad to see you. I am your guide tonight, the Reverend Doctor. You can call me Denise. And I cannot wait to see what's about to happen with this conversation about what do you see? What you see? Because I'm not sure that we all seeing the same thing around here. And so we're going to be talking about that. But first, let me just make sure that we source this, we ground this conversation. First of all, in the spirit of Salbona, that spirit that says that we are one. We are one because we are bound together by our humanity. So no matter what your thoughts are about faith, no matter what your decision-making processes are, no matter what your ideology, your theology is, you are welcome here. We receive the whole of who you are. You don't have to check anything at the door. Come as you are, and we can engage in conversation even if we disagree. Like, that's what it's all about. If this is your first time joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome in. If this is your umpteenth time, welcome, welcome, welcome in. And there are ways that you can engage with us tonight. So there are three ways that you can engage with the good fight. First is to locate yourself in the story. As we are reading, as we are talking, as we are dialoguing, where are you? Because we're talking about stories. We're telling stories. And in stories, you have characters, and we can play, we become those characters in life. Like, we live out the roles that we believe we were destined to play. So where are you in the story? Which character are you? And then once you locate yourself, you can begin to interrogate yourself. Like, is this who I want to be? Is this who I was trying to be? Do I want to be somebody else? Like, you have all the opportunity, all the freedom to make decisions about how you want to change what you see. The second way that you can engage with a good fight is to look through a window. So you can't find yourself. Like, you're not playing any of these roles. You've never played the roles. You're not interested in the roles. You don't know nothing about the roles. But you realize that because somebody else is playing these roles, that somebody else locates themselves in this story, that we want to honor that. We want to honor their story. So we sit back and we watch the story unfold. We receive it into our spirits, and we trust that when it's time for us to use whatever we've learned from the story, we'll be able to do that. The third way that you can engage with the good fight is to walk through a door. So hopefully this is not the end of the conversation, but perhaps the beginning. So beyond this space, beyond this hour, you will still be thinking about what we've talked about, and it may do a work in you. It may not, but it may. And I said there were three ways, but there's also another way. Another way is for you to chime in right here. You can comment, and we can talk to each other right here in this space. I can't comment back with typing, but I can absolutely respond to you with my voice. So thank you so much for joining us for the good fight. We would not be alive on this. We would not be alive in this space if it were not for you. So I feel like I'm gonna have to stop doing something. I think that I don't think I know myself as much as I think I do. And so I'm tickled because when I went back to look at the flyer to make sure I understood what the title was, it's called What You See. I was like, what is we talking about? And so I have a tendency to plan something like days before when I'm thinking one thing, not giving myself the freedom to say, you might not be thinking this in 3 days. So why don't you wait before you put this out there? And so I have to think about that some more. So um, I don't want to be bound by the flyer. I guess that's what I'm saying. I don't want to be bound by it because I don't know how the spirit is going to move from one day to the next, from 1 minute to the next, from 1 hour to the next. And I am really trying to live into what it means to be in on the flow of the spirit. So I want to get in wherever the spirit is, and I just want to ride it wherever it's going. And I want to be open to whatever the process is, whatever the journey is, whatever the learning is, whatever the pushback is. I just want to be open to that. So the flyers about what you see, we might talk about that, we might not. Let's just go with the flow. So I want to tell you, I always try to tell you how I got to this place. I think it's important to have some background, to have some context. But I was thinking about the prodigal son, the word prodigal. That's what I was thinking about, the word prodigal. And I was wondering why we use the word prodigal when we talk about this one son found in Luke chapter 15, starting at verse 11. We're gonna read it. I have it ready for us to read, but just to give some context. So Luke chapter 15 begins with these stories of somebody losing something and talking about what it means to find what you have lost, what it means to sacrifice something for the sake of the lost, what it means to surrender everything for the journey of reclaiming that which you feel on some level belongs to you. But I don't want to use that language when we're talking about people, because people don't belong to you, but reclaiming a member of your community, I should say that. So some of these are the first two stories are basically about objects, and then the last story is about people. And so particularly about three men, a father and two sons. And one of the sons, he called him the older son, and the younger son. Quick grammatical fact. If you're talking about two people and you're talking about age, if you have two brothers like I do, I don't say the oldest brother because there are only two of them. So since there are two of them, I would say the older brother. If I had three of them, that's when I would use the superlative, which is EST. 2 ER, 3 or more EST. I just want to throw that in there. So we're going to be talking about the older brother because it's only two of them in this conversation. But when you talk, many people, when they hear about this story in Luke chapter 15 with these two brothers, they call the younger brother the prodigal son. And I was trying to figure out, why would we call this younger brother the prodigal son? Because to be prodigal means that you give so much. You give more than enough. In fact, it's almost a shame how much you give. And because of the younger brother's story, I'm like, why do we give him this label of being a giver when he actually loses everything? So I'm not understanding. But I was feeling like we were using the word to describe the wrong person in the story, because the father in the story represents God. So if we're going to talk about who gives the most, if we're going to talk about who gives unconditionally, if we're going to talk about who is available to us no matter what, then that word must necessarily belong to God. So to say the son is prodigal, I was taking issue with it at first. But as I continue to read the story over and over again, which is what I absolutely recommend that everybody does. Like, we cannot get to the point where we think that we know something so well. Like, I done read this story 1,000 times. I already know what it says. I don't have to read it anymore. When actually, every time you read it, you can get something new from it. You can learn something from it. You can get upset about something in it, because you're in a different space and time when you read it at a different in a different setting. You are moving, you are growing, you are evolving. And so how it spoke to you before is not how it speaks to you now. So as I continue to read this story, I was like, oh, I see why we're calling the younger son prodigal, because when he gets his inheritance, he spends it recklessly. He just does so much with it that he's not thinking about the next step. He's not playing chess, he's playing checkers. And so because he's just giving, he finds himself destitute. And so I just wanted to talk a minute about these words, about words and how we use them, and how we can be open to using them, and how we can see that we may not be using them correctly, and we need to rethink that. And so I now will say that I believe both characters in the story are prodigal. The father, who's symbolic of God, as well as the younger son, because they are giving what they have for different reasons. And it made me wonder about us, particularly those of us who call ourselves faithful, whatever that faith may be. Faith in yourself, faith in Christianity, faith in Buddhism, faith in Taoism, faith in Islam, faith in Judeo-Christian, the faith in the Jewish community, whatever, faith in nature, faith in Wicca, whatever it is that you have faith in. Those of us who call ourselves faithful, I wonder how many of us can be considered prodigal. That because of our faith, we give and give and give and give and give, believing that that is part of the process of being faithful. One of the criteria of being faithful would be, we believe that it means we have to give of ourselves, we have to give of our resources, we have to give of our time, we have to give of our energy, and we have to always be ready and willing to do that, to do the giving. So we ourselves are prodigal in that sense because we give so much all the time. I don't want to pass any judgment on whether or not that defines you. I don't want to pass any judgment on it. I just want to ask if that's the best way to be faithful. Do we really have to give and give and give and give to be faithful? And if your answer is yes, where did you get that from? Where did that idea come from? That ideology, that theology, where did that come from? Because that's another question that I think we don't ask enough. Where did I get this stuff from? So sometimes when I'm facilitating conversations around bias and microaggressions, we do this exercise. And the exercise is where, and I really recommend it, the exercise is where you get a sheet of paper and you create a chart. Let's just start with 5. You want to create the chart so that there are 5 squares across the top. You want to also have 5 squares down the bottom. Now, one of the square at the very edge at the top, nothing's in it because you got to be able to have. So skip that first square and then have 5. So you need 6 squares, 5 and then 5 under. This one square is empty. And what you do is across the top, you write communities that you're interested in, or even not even that you're interested in, but the communities amongst us. So you would say these are Black people in one square. You would say these are LGBTQ folks in another square. And then you would say these are transgender folks in the 3rd square. The 4th square, you might say there are poor people. So let's just keep it at 4. Like, let's not do too much. And then on the vertical column, you would write places where you get information. So you might write church in one square. In the next square, you write school. In the next square, you write parents. And then the next square, you write community, right? So you have people across the top, places of influence where you get information along the vertical axis. And so what you're asked to do is take this square where it say Black folks and go down the list. What did you learn from church about Black people? What did you learn from school about Black people? What did you learn from your parents about Black people? What did you learn from your community about Black people? And you go through all of these squares to look at how you're being influenced. Who's influencing you, and in what way are you being influenced? Because you're not judging anything that you're writing. You're just stating the fact. This is what I thought. This is what I was taught. This is what they said. That's all you're doing. After you finish, I would say, first of all, go to sleep on it. Like, don't try to, like, I know when I'm facilitating, you don't have time to go to sleep. But for us, we can go to sleep. Sleep on it. Come back with fresh eyes and look at it and say, yes, these are the things that I was taught. Where am I now? Because it's very possible that what you were taught is not what you believe now. And until you kind of look at it and think about it, you don't realize that. Here we go. Hey, Takia. Hey, Takia. So glad that you are here. So we're talking about this exercise that allows us to put people across the top and spaces of influence across the bottom and ask ourselves, what did we learn about these people in these spaces? And the point that I'm trying to make is that what if we take some time to center ourselves with what we see on the paper, that I learned this about LGBTQ people from church, then we can begin to see who is influencing us and how we are being influenced. And we can ask ourselves, do I still feel the way that I was taught? I'm now 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. Takia said, I like this. You have a worksheet? Yes, I do. If you drop me a line, you can do it. You can DM me your email address and I'll email it to you. Or I can text it to you, like whatever way works best for you. I can do it because I'm not asking you to put it right here where it's all public, but sure, I have the worksheet. And so you can begin to ask yourself, oh, hey, look who's here. Hey, Vernon, in the house tonight. So you can begin to see through this exercise, again, what you were taught before, and you can ask yourself, as a result of what you've been taught, if you still believe those things. You can also take the time to ask yourself, do I still want these spaces to be my influencers? Do I want to rely on what I learned from my parents? Do I want to continue to rely on what I learned from the church? Do I want to continue to rely on what I learned from media? Do I want this kind of influence in my life? So it's just a personal exercise that you can do yourself to begin to ask yourself some questions about what you believe now and why you believe it, and should you continue to believe it. So when we talk about the prodigals, let me go ahead and read. I think we should go ahead and read the scripture. So this is a story about two sons in the Bible, Luke chapter 15. I've broken it up so that like it's from verse 11 to verse 32. That's a lot of verses. So I think we're just going to take it in parts. So the first part is about the younger son. Now remember, this story is about three men, a father and two sons. So I think we're just going to take a moment just to talk about the younger son, and then we'll get into it from there. Oh, wait a minute. They're not even up on here. I must have experienced some. Oh yes, like this upload is taking too long. Okay, how about this? I know y'all probably not gonna like this, but I'm gonna. Yeah, that's the only one that came up. I'm having technical difficulties. Let's see if I could just bring them up one at a time. See if it'll let me do that. Because I would rather not read to you. I would really rather not do that. I'd rather you be able to see the text for yourself so that you can know, so that you can see, so that you're not depending on me to give you what you can receive for yourself. So I ran into a problem, and now I'm just trying to go. You know how it is, how you have to remind yourself that you're smarter than the computer. I'm smarter than you. Yeah, I'm smarter than you. So, okay, my apologies for that. The kids, what they say in church, take your time. Make it plain. I appreciate your grace. I absolutely appreciate your grace. So, okay, I think I'm ready. This is... Nope, and none of those are what I want. So let's do one more. Where is... This should be it, because I'm not understanding. Okay. I'm just going to have to read this. I'm just going to read this one part, I think, because then I just need to read. Looks like I just need, looks like I just need to read. I might have to just read tonight. So if you would join, if you have your Bible, turn in your Bibles to, and I'm using my phone. So nowadays you got your Bible any kind of way. You can get it on your phone. So turn to Luke chapter 15, and we're going to start at verse 11. I'm going to read starting, and I'm reading from the New International Version. This is the New International Version of the Bible. And then I keep trying to fix it, and I shouldn't. I can't fix it, so I need to stop trying to fix it. Okay, so this is Luke chapter 15 from the New International Version, starting at verse 11. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything." I feel like I need to stop right there. That's verses 11 through 16, so I can make sure that everybody is with me since I'm reading and you're not able to read along. But according to this story that you find in the Bible in Luke chapter 15, there's a man who has 2 sons. So since there are 2 sons, he got an older son and a younger son. The younger son goes to his daddy and says, "Listen, I want my money." That's basically what he says. "I know that when you die, you're going to leave me an inheritance because it's the law. You don't have a choice. These days, we ain't got to leave our children nothing." As a matter of fact, I got a friend right now who says, "I'm spending all my money because I ain't leaving nothing here for them to fight over while I'm gone." But according to the Jewish law, you have to, the father has to bestow upon his older son 2/3 of his inheritance, and 2/3 of his possessions, and then the younger son gets 1/3 of that, because it's 3 of them. If it was 2 of them, if it was 3 of them, it goes, you have to figure out the math. But in this case, the math is easy. Give the 2/3 to the one son, the older son, 1/3 to the younger son. So the younger son says, "I don't want to wait until you die. I want my money now." Now, the father could have smote him. You know how the Old Testament be talking about, "I smite thee." The father could have smote him, because this was totally disrespectful. Because basically what the younger son is saying is that, "I don't care nothing about you, not your life. I'm ready to get it in. I'm ready to live life. I'm ready to live the abundant life. I'm ready to do the doggone thing. And you stopping me because you still alive. So let's pretend like you dead. Give me my stuff so I can go." So the father does not, he does not correct the son. He does not discipline the son. Instead, he divides the inheritance into, and gives it to both of them. So the younger son asks for his money right now, but the older son, as a result of the younger son asking for his, the older son gets his too. So both of them now have their inheritance while their father is alive. Let's see what Takia says. Reese done looked at me talking about Reese done looked at me talking, "I want my money, baby. This is a biblical story. Don't come at me like that. That is so cute." Yeah, that's what the younger son says. "I want my money and I want it now." And the father gives the money to both of them. So both of them have now received their inheritance. The younger son says, all right, I got my money. Deuces. He packs up his stuff and he leaves to go to a foreign country. Wherever he's going, he wants to go. Like me last year, I was like, listen, I'm getting my coins together and I'm going to Rome because I've always wanted to go. That's what I'm about to do. 2 years ago, I said, listen, I'm getting my coins together because I'm going to Paris. I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to see the Sistine Chapel in Rome, and I've always wanted to see the Louvre, the museum in Paris. And I'm like, listen, that's what I did. Now, where am I going this year? I'm not sure. I want to go to Sicily, but I'm not sure. But that's what the younger son says. He says, I'm out. And when he gets to the country, he spends his money prodigally. So this is why we call him the prodigal son, because he spends and spends and spends, and he spends recklessly. He's not thinking about tomorrow. He's just living for the day, and he ends up penniless in a very short time. And once he realizes he doesn't have any money, then he looks around and he's like, wait, what's happening in the world? I wasn't even paying attention to the fact it's a famine. What? Ain't no food. What am I do? So now he can't eat. There's no food. He's got to figure something out. So he says, I'm going to hire myself out. I'm telling someone, listen, I'll work for food. We see people, we talk about immigrants a lot. We'll say they're asking the question about why ICE is showing up at Home Depot, because many times my understanding is that the people who are looking for day jobs, I don't want to just say immigrants, people who are looking for day jobs, they go to Home Depot and they say, hey, the Home Depot, somebody rolls up and says, I need 3 people that can do blah, blah, blah. 3 people hit it and they get hired for the day and then they get paid. Not just immigrants, whoever needs a day job. So this is basically what the younger son does. The younger son says, I got to stop saying basically. The younger son says, I got to hire myself out. I got to make some money because I got to eat. So that's what happens. He hires himself out and the man says, okay, it's your job to go work in the fields. You know what this really feels like today? Because they rounding up the immigrants, sending them wherever they're trying to send them. And you got crops in the fields that they were picking that now we need somebody to come out here and pick these crops. I hadn't even thought about that till just now. And so the man says, I need you out in this field. I need you out in the field. But he wanted him to be out in the field with the pigs. Now, people of Jewish descent generally do not fool with pigs. But this man is destitute. He got to eat. He got to figure it out. So he's willing to take whatever job is available to him. And many of us need to have that kind of attitude. I know Black women have that attitude. Like, look, I'm going to have to do whatever I got to do to put food on this table. I was talking to Miss Sarah the other day. She's 89, and she was like, I've had so many jobs. I would love to see her resume because I'm going to do whatever it takes to feed my children. So he says, listen, I got to eat. I'm in this field with the pigs, and the food that he's feeding to the pigs looks so good to him. He's salivating over the food that belongs to the pigs, so much so that he is ready to eat the slop that he is feeding the pigs out of corn. Yeah, I don't know what you feed pigs. I think corn, whatever you feed the pigs, he's ready to eat it. That's how desperate he is. And in his desperation, in his moment, when he is at his lowest of the low he's ever been in life, that is when he has to sit with himself and realize this wasn't no good decision. I ain't do this right. Wait a minute. Let me think about this some more. I really need to go back home. That's what I need. I need to return to where I've come from, and I need to make amends. I need to be reconciled. I need to be held accountable and responsible for my immaturity, because I thought I was ready to be on my own. I thought I was ready to have all my money, but really I wasn't ready. And so many of us could really think about that too, because that's my question to you right now. When you find yourself in a bind, how do you respond? Because what some of us do is we double down. Now we realize that we've made a mistake. We know that we need to turn back and say, listen, I didn't mean to burn this bridge. I'm sorry I burned the bridge. Will you give me some grace? Can we find a way, find our way back to each other, redefine our relationship? That's what we need to do. But we double down because our pride says, no, I can't let anybody see that I've made the wrong decision. I can't let anybody see that I'm not shining right now. I can't let anybody see that I'm not in full control right now. So we put on this mask, we wear this mask, and we dance around the situation, and we front. We be stunting like everything is okay when really it's not. Well, the younger son doesn't operate like that. The younger son says, listen, I realize that my daddy treats his servants better than what I'm dealing with right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back home and I'm going to go to my father and I'm going to say, I'm not even trying to be reinstated as your son. Oh, I should read it. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me read. So that was the first part. The first part about the younger son asking for his money. Both of the sons get their money. The younger son takes his money and goes to a foreign country, spends all his money. Now he can't eat, hires himself out. He gets hired. He wants to eat the food that he's feeding to the pigs, which is his job, which would probably get him fired. And he realizes, I need to go back home because nobody was giving him anything. He had to fend for himself. He went back home. And so let's keep reading. So this starts at verse 17. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. I want to stop right there. So that was verses 17 through 20. So the son said, I got a little ahead of myself. He said, look, my father's hired servants are better off than I am. So I'm going to go back to my father. I'm not going to try to be who I was to him. I'm not going to try to act like nothing happened. I'm going to say, hey, I have sinned and I want your forgiveness. Like, I'm not even worthy, but I need your forgiveness. I want to pause right here for a few reasons. But number one, to think about this word, to help us think more deeply about this word sin. When I read this story again and I saw the word sin, I'm not sure if I've ever seen it before or not, but it hit me like a ton of bricks when I read it recently, like in the last couple of days, that he says when he goes back, he's going to say to his father, I have sinned. And what I asked myself and what I'm asking you is what was the sin? Was the sin him asking for his money while his father was still alive? Was his sin leaving home to go and live a life of exploration and discovery? Was his sin coming back home thinking that he had a right to come back after he left, not realizing that he should have thought that the bridge was burned and he couldn't go back? He shouldn't have shown his face at home anymore. Like, what was the sin? Well, first of all, what does it mean to sin? So to sin means to do wrong. So you're doing wrong. So who did he do wrong? Did he do his older brother wrong? Did he do his father wrong? Like, why are we calling this young man a sinner? Why? And the reason I'm asking is because the father, when the younger son says to the father, I want my inheritance now, as a father, he could have taken that moment to correct his son and say, I want you to think about this before we keep going. Like, let's just pause for a moment and think about what you're asking me. Because what you're asking me is against the law. So what you're doing is a crime. So what you're doing is being sinful right now. To ask me for something that does not belong to you right now. The father could have taken that moment to say, so I want to give you an opportunity. I do this all the time when I talk to people. I want you to just pause right now and rethink for a moment. Are you sure that's what you want to say? Are you sure you don't need to think about it? I do this all the time, especially in romantic relationships. I'm like, babe, is that what you really mean to say right now? Let's just pause. Is that what you really want to say to me? And so the father could have done that, but the father did not. The father could have said, man, I I know you ain't trying to ask for my money. That's what the father could have said, but he did not. The father responded to his son favorably. So if the father does not consider his son a sinner for what he has done, who are we to now come back and revisit the story and declare that the son is a sinner? Who gives us the authority to tell this man how to deal with his son in his own house? We don't have. Do you let anybody run your house? Do you let anybody tell you how to handle your children? I wish you would in this day and age try to tell somebody else how to discipline their child. Baby, it might be an all-out war. Now, that could be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. It could go both ways. But one of the things that we don't do usually is try to tell people how to run their house. So if this father, who is symbolic in this story of God, has not labeled this young man a sinner, who gives anybody else the right to? So we can apply that to our lives today. If God has not said to any of us, and God ain't said it to none of us, that black people are evil because they black, or LGBTQ folks are evil because of their gender identity or their sexual orientation, or poor people are evil because they are poor. Like, if God has not declared anybody to be a sinner because of these things, how are we going to come around as a society and then slap that label on them after the fact? And I know it's after the fact because I wanted to do some work. I said, I'm thinking about this word sin, like, where did they get this from? And so I looked it up, and it was like, oh, the first time you see the word sin being used is in Genesis chapter 3. I said, what? I ain't never seen the word sin in Genesis chapter 3. So here I go, got to pull out Genesis chapter 3. Pull out Genesis chapter 3, and sure enough, the word sin is in there. And I'm like, y'all, have y'all ever been gaslit before? Have you ever heard about gaslighting, where you know something to be true and you give voice to it, and somebody else wants to act like what you're saying is not true, and that you crazy, like it's something wrong with you for you even saying this, for you even thinking this? That's how I felt when I went back to Genesis chapter 3 and I saw the word sin in there. I was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Sin, where sin come from in Genesis chapter 3? Where sin? I know sin don't. So I said, let me keep working, let me keep researching, because I know I'm not crazy. So when we ask people, how old is the Bible? Most people will give it at least 2,000 years. At least 2,000 years they'll give they'll say that's how old the Bible is. And I'm talking about the Bible in its form that we have now. The Old Testament and the New Testament. They'll say, okay, 2,000 years ago, because that's when we started the calendar with Jesus, 2,000 years ago. So the Bible will be older than that if we count the Old Testament, but let's just stop at the New Testament and give me 2,000 years. Well, we got to go to the Old Testament because the word sin shows up in Genesis. So that would include the Old Testament, which is older than the New Testament. So that means that if we're going to give the New Testament 2,000 years old, we got to give the Old Testament, I'm going to say at least 3,000 years old. So if that's the case, if you believe it, because I'm not trying to make you believe anything. If you believe that, then the word sin did not enter into our language until 125 years ago or so. Certainly not even 500 years ago. Certainly not even 1,000 years ago, let alone 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. So how you gonna have the word sin show up in the book of Genesis when it wasn't even a concept, it wasn't even a word, it wasn't even part of the lexicon for the writers? That means then that somebody decided that they're gonna rewrite this story so that we can find a way to make this man wrong, and we're gonna find a way to continue to insert this ideology, insert this theology around sinners, and making people believe that they are wrong, because we need you, the system needs you to believe that, the system of religion needs you to believe that, because that's what keeps you going to church, many of you. That's what keeps you praying to this particular God in this particular way through Jesus Christ, because you're worried about not being saved. You're worried about being a sinner. But the Bible does not declare you to be that, not in its original text. The influencers our social influencers want you to believe that. And that's why I feel like that exercise that I talked about at the beginning is so important, because you're having to ask yourself, who am I allowing to influence my life? And should they be the influencers? Should I listen to them? If I know that you have an agenda and you're exploiting my faith to further your agenda, should I be allowing you to influence me? So when I ask the question, who did this young man sin against? It's not his daddy, because his daddy said, oh, you want your money? Okay, you can have your money. Daddy wasn't pressed about it. It can't be the older brother, because the older brother got his money too. I'm the youngest in my family and I'm the only girl. So my brothers used to feel like I was shown favor. So when we wanted to do something, they would say, niece, go ask daddy, can we go skate? Niece, go do this. I was always the one, because they believed that that my dad was going to say yes to me. And if he says yes to me, that means he's saying yes to them too. So we all finna go skate. And so that's how this older brother could have felt. Oh, okay, my younger brother stepped out there and got us both our money. So he didn't sin against the older brother, because the older brother is now in a whole different situation that he was in before the younger brother asked for the money. And did the young man sin against himself? Because if all he wanted was to see something new, if what he was saying in his mind is, there's got to be something more to this life. There's got to be something more to this community. There's got to be something. There has to be. I believe it's a whole world out there, and I want to see it. I want to experience it. I want to explore it. I want to discover it. Is it a sin to want more? Is it a sin to want more? Is it a sin to not want to be boxed in with your current environment? Is it a sin to want to defy the rules, to want to step outside of the box? Is that a sin? So I'm going to say no to all of those. I do not believe he sinned against his father. I do not believe he sinned against his older brother. I do not believe he sinned against himself. I believe that sin was inserted into this story to further an agenda that keeps us bound as those people who call ourselves faithful. And that's what I want us to think about. So he goes back home. Let me keep going. This is starting at verse 21. Remember, he's going back home to his father and he's rehearsing this story. Have y'all ever had to apologize to somebody and you were rehearsing your story, what you're going to say and how you're going to say it and the look you're going to have on your face? So that's what he's done. He's rehearsed the story in his head. He got the look on his face. He's going to be looking all somber and sad. So he wants to go back home because he needs to be reinstated. Like, he cannot continue to live in this foreign country because he has no money and he can't eat. So he's on his way home. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said to his servants, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." So they began to celebrate. So even if you believe that this young man sinned, if that's your take on this, if that's your takeaway, that this man was a sinner, this younger son was a sinner. Even if that's what you believe, listen to the good news. The good news is that God, with whom you are in covenant relationship with, says to you, "I ain't studying about that. I ain't thinking about that. All I want to do is make sure that you are safe. I want to make sure that you're okay. I want to make sure that we remain in relationship." I'm talking about the personal relationship. I'm not talking about what's happening in the world and how God is moving in the world with you. I'm talking about this personal relationship. God says there is nothing in Romans that you can do that can separate me separated you from my love? Absolutely nothing. I don't care about anything that this world is talking about. It's me and you. And I see you. Come on. I ain't leave you. You left me, but I always kept a place for you. Oh my goodness. When I think about people who lose their children, and sometimes when we're watching the crime shows and you go into their homes, they open the door to the child's room and everything is still like the child left it. It's like they cannot bring themselves to reimagine the space. Like, you can't make this no office. You can't make this no fitness center. Like, this is my child's room, and that's what it will forever be, no matter what. And so I feel like that about God. God says, it does not matter. This room, this relationship is ours, and I'm not ever going anywhere, and you will always have a place, and you can always come home. As a matter of fact, I was with you while you were gone. You just didn't realize it. So Vernon says, so he receives new inheritance. Oh, okay, let's think about that. So if we can think about inheritance in terms beyond money, which is what we really have to learn, we need to learn to do in this country. And I'm not sure this is what you're saying, Vernon, but this is what I'm hearing. That at first he was given money as his inheritance, and he squandered that. That didn't work for his life. He comes back, and his father is putting a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet, killing the fatted calf. So now this is a new inheritance. I'm giving you something that's way more significant, way more meaningful, way more substantial. This is the real life, to be in communion with your God. Yes, Vernon, if that's what you're talking about, yes, Vernon, that'll preach right there. This is the relationship that you should long for. This is the relationship that should make you say, I'm willing to step outside of the box. I'm willing to defy the odds. I'm willing to break the rules to make sure that I keep this relationship pure and sacred and holy. Yes, I love that. If that's what you're talking about, this new inheritance. Yes, has a new inheritance. Now, we need to keep going. So where are we? Younger son asks for his money. Both the sons get their money. Younger son takes his money and leaves. He squanders his money, realizes he's hungry, decides he's going back home. He goes back home. He thinks he has to say all this stuff, and the daddy ain't studying about that. The daddy receives him with open arms. Not only open arms, even kisses him. Me, you need to kiss your boys. You need to learn how to do that. Even kisses him. Everything is, what we call it, Gucci. Are they still saying that? Everything Gucci? I don't know what they're still saying. It's all good. So let's keep going. This is verse 25. No, y'all don't have my glasses on. I really think that's 25. Yeah. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened cow because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, that's important, but when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fatted cow for him. My son, the father says, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. All of a sudden I started thinking about Amazing Grace. Was blind, but now I see. I thought about that. I was lost and now I found. So at first we all celebrate. We celebrate the fact that the son came to himself. He did not allow his pride to keep him from going home. Even though he knew, or in his mind he thought that things were not going to be 100%, he was willing to take the chance. He takes the chance. His father receives him. The father throwing a party. Everybody in the club getting tipsy. That's what's supposed to be happening. But the older brother is mad. So when I was asking the question on the flyer, what you see, the question was really posed to the older brother. What do you see when you see your younger brother? Because your younger brother, what has he done to you? Remember, because the younger brother asked for his inheritance, the older brother got his too. So the older brother sitting on stacks. Out, and the daddy not even dead. The younger brother is gone. He doing the doggone thing. The older brother is mad, so mad that he lies about his younger brother. He said he done squandered your property with prostitutes. First of all, it's not the father's property anymore because the father gave it to his son. How many of you all have ever given somebody a gift and they won't tell them what to do with it? I brought my mom back. I'll never forget this. I brought her back an authentic African moo-moo. That's what we call it. I forgot what you call it over there. We call it a moo-moo. And one day I came home and she was cooking in it. And I hit the roof. Girl, I done been all the way to Kenya. And I done brought this back. And you over here, I don't know what she was doing. Frying bacon. she was frying something because it was popping. The oil was popping. And I said, you gonna get this oil? And I was livid. She never wore it again. And I learned that lesson then. Once I give it to you, I release. You can do whatever you want. It's yours now. You got to release it and let you do whatever you want. So he says, he done squandered your property. And then he said, with prostitutes. Now, how you gonna say the man, the younger brother was with prostitutes? Where'd that come from? You just made that up because you mad. And how many of us that happens to? Somebody mad at me, they start making up stuff. You don't know my life? How you gonna say what he was doing in a foreign country and you ain't never left home? So he's that mad, he's that jealous, and he tells it. So the dad is like, look, come here. He's like, I'm not going up in there because you have not treated me the same way that you treated this younger son. And the father is like, but I'm confused. Like, what do you not have? What is it that you want? Me and you we've never been out of relationship. Everything that you want, you've had. Like, everything that is mine is yours. You have access, free reign. It's not my fault you haven't tapped into what your resources that are available. That's not my fault because the table is spread for you. This relationship, you have access to all of me all the time. Why aren't you asking for anything? Because over in the Bible somewhere it says you have not because you ask not. I can't read your mind. If you want it, and you already have your inheritance. If you want to ask me, can you go somewhere? Can you spend some money? First of all, you ain't got to ask me, it's yours. But if you feel like you need to ask me, what's stopping you? What's stopping you? And I really believe that that's part of what's happening to us in this world even today. That we're looking at somebody else's life and we're looking at how they are choosing to live their lives. And they're making choices with all the authority that they have in their bodies to make choices about their own lives, which is what all of us have the freedom to do, make choices about our own lives, but from our own authority. But I choose not to do that, but I'm mad at you because you have the freedom. I'm mad at you because you have the guts. I'm mad at you because you refuse to stay down when they try to keep you down. I'm mad at you because you are strong enough to raise up. I'm mad at you because you are resilient. I'm mad at you because you are all the things that I want to be. And because I'm mad at you, I want to make your life hard rather than deal with my own self. Because what he does is the older son says, this son of yours. So the older son gets so mad at the younger son for living his best life that he says, I don't even want to be in a relationship. I don't even want to be related to him. He ain't even my brother no more. He your son. He don't belong. He's yours. So you just want to give him away like his humanity doesn't matter. But the father comes back and says, because let me read that last part again. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. And so the father says, no, let me tell you what you're not going to do. You are not going to sever this relationship just because you're mad. You're not going to walk away from your brother just because you are jealous. You're not going to act like you can dehumanize or you're not going to dehumanize or demonize him, call him a sinner, because you don't have the guts to face who you really are. That's not what you do. So I'm going to give him right on back to you, and you're going to have to figure this out. How can you right this relationship? And I wish, y'all, I don't see why we can't keep writing the Bible, because somebody need to write a chapter. Somebody need to respond to this. Like, I'm reading Audre Lorde right now, Sister Outsider. And in one of her, these are essays and speeches that she has written. And one of the essays, she's responding to Mary Daly. It's like, Mary Daly wrote this, and she's like, well, let me tell you what I think about what you wrote. First, she wrote to Mary Daly personally, like, this can just be between me and you, but Mary Daly didn't respond. So she's like, it's just an open letter. Everybody can see it. And so I feel like that right now, like, I wish somebody would write like the second part of this. So what happens? What happens to the relationship between the brothers? Are they able to find their way back to each other? And who's the honest on? Is it the older brother's job to do the work of repairing the relationship because he's the one who severed it? Is it the younger brother's job to, is the onus on him to right the wrong, well, I don't want to say right the wrong, to be reconciled to his brother because he started it by asking for his money? Like, how does this play out? I don't know, because there's no more to the story. That's the end of the story. But the question that I'm going to leave us with tonight is still, what do you see? Because when God looked at the younger brother, he saw nothing but love. He said, when he saw him coming, and that's interesting to me. Let's think about that for just a moment. Oh my goodness, I just thought about that. When the younger brother was on his way home, the father had to be watching for him. I just thought about that. He couldn't have been in the house, because the Bible says when he saw him a long way off. So the father was out there. He probably was pacing every day. When I hear about parents whose children are missing, they can't sleep at night. They can't eat, because they're not gonna rest until they find their child. And some of them have said, when days and days go by, some of them even say, I realize now that it's highly probable that my child is dead. But even if my child is dead, I want the body back. I want him, her, them here with me. I want to bury them with me. I want them close to me. Like, so this father, his son is gone, doing who knows what, where. And he's like, is he going to come back? So the father's watching. So what do you see when you see the younger brother? And then the Bible says that when he saw him from afar off, he was filled with compassion. He's like, it's my baby. Have y'all ever come home and surprised your mama or your grandmama or whoever? And it's just priceless. The look on their face is priceless. So can you imagine this daddy? It's just like and he knows exactly who it is. I know that walk. I know that's my child. So what do you see when you look at other people, your brothers and sisters and siblings your human siblings? What do you see when people are simply trying to live their best lives? Are you angry about it? Are you jealous? Like, what comes up for you? Because some of us are not seeing love. We're not seeing through the eyes of love. We're not seeing love. We're not operating in compassion or empathy or sympathy or any of those things. We're dealing with we're refusing to deal with our own stuff, and we end up taking it out on other folks, which is not fair, and it's not healthy, and it keeps us from being fully present as humans with each other. So that's the question for us to consider. And I want y'all to think about this word sin. Are we really sinners? There's no way sin could have been in the Bible because of just the facts of lexicon, just the facts of language. There's no way. So for those of you who are still talking about, I'm just a sinner saved by grace, rethink it. Give yourself permission to rethink, to reimagine. What would your life look like if you didn't call yourself sinner every day or whenever? because God ain't said it. So thank you so much for joining us for the Good Fight. I love being in this space with you. I cannot wait to see you again next week. Until then, bye.